YouTube. And I believe we are now live.
It looks that way. Thanks, everybody, for taking time on your Tuesday evenings in May to convene. The outcome, of course, of this meeting is to get to a position where we are comfortable moving this strategic plan forward so that it can be put out for public review and comment. Mm-hmm. And I really want to commend Paul in particular for doing a really good job of integrating the concerns and the suggestions that Stella had made during the last board meeting. Subsequently, the input from Jeff and from Paul Baldino. And unfortunately, Brian Knapp could not join us, but he sent us each his suggestions. And I see that easily 5 are automatically included in the new draft. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if I will just call out the ones that were not, because they, unless you, and well, under goal 1.6, he suggested that we break out how we have environmentally sound improvements to retrofitting buildings separate from new buildings. Mm-hmm. And I think, in fact, it covers that already. It does. I don't think we have to differentiate between the two. It's a commitment. Oh, thanks, Paul, for pulling that up.
Sure.
We want to go to goal 1.6, maybe? Oh, I guess.
There we go.
Okay. So the goal reads, build and retrofit innovative green buildings. If you feel strongly that we should break out the two, we can do so. Otherwise, I think under the objectives, it's universal that any new improvements will be taken into consideration to include these green initiatives.
Fine with me.
Okay. Sean, any objections?
No.
Okay.
So we're leaving that as is?
As is.
Okay.
Yeah. The subsequent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were included. And I think specifically his recommendation on goal 4.6 is really within Sean's jurisdiction. It has to do with working with the jurisdiction on Cameron Run. And so I would defer to Sean on the wording, whether it should be.
I'm looking at his comments again. I'm looking at the specific draft. I know Paul emailed about this today.
I think the intention of the way this is drafted is to have a collaborative tone and not sort of presuppose what the process might lead us to in terms of what the future of Cameron Run would be.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I'm differentiating what Brian said versus what you said. Hold on.
Take your time.
Yeah, I think we I think I'm okay with how it is. I think there's a lot there that's beyond our control, and I think we're making it clear that it's important to us and the way that it's stated, and that we want to have a collaborative process. But but we don't want to overstate or make it seem like it's up to us because it's not at the end of the day.
Right, beautiful. The site, so we've covered Brian's, we covered Stella's input, Paul's, and Jeff's. And Jeff, thank you so much for the time you've taken too.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a few more thoughts, but whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. I just had a few little ones. It's more housekeeping.
Okay. Yeah, mine are sort of editing things. I'll just go through them quickly and just they're just for suggestions. You don't have the staff and consultant and Kate. You all can decide what you want to do about them. Paul, would you go back to the second page, mission?
Sure. There we go.
Okay, and just slide down to right above goals and objectives. Well, first slide down a little further. So now up, sorry, back up just a little bit. So just some editing. So one thing we're saying here in number one in the middle of the screen, overarching areas of strategic priority, and I like having these definitions of goals and objectives and that sort of thing. I think it helps.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I did mention, we call things goal areas and then goals, and that's a lot of goal words. I didn't know what people thought about naming the 6 areas strategic priorities, but that would be one alternative to goals and goal areas, but I don't feel particularly strongly about it.
I took goals and goals area to be synonymous. And if that's the case, we should use just one of the 2 words.
I think I agree with Jeff. Some different area because, whether they're strategic pillars, strategic imperatives, strategic priorities, these are kind of like the main areas of guidance from the board, right? And then the goals are like what we've developed and then objectives underneath them. So I don't think they're synonymous because, the goals are more detailed than what we currently have as goal areas. So I don't really care what they're called, but I agree, Jeff, that maybe something other than goal in the word, like strategic imperatives, strategic pillars, strategic priorities, something like that.
Okay. Slide down right there to numbers 6 and 8. Just all the rest of these 1 through 8 are starting out with verb. I think mostly.
Yeah. Frame.
Yeah, frame, root.
Root.
We ought to have either nouns or verbs starting the objective sentences. So you have frame and anyway, just so we're consistent in our language.
That's easy to do.
Yep.
What phrase would you most like to see for the larger area that's not goal area but strategic focus, or what's the term of art that you'd like?
In number 1, you use strategic priority, so I don't have any overarching areas of strategic priority. Strategic priority is fine, but Sean had some other ideas, so it doesn't matter.
I think priorities is fine.
You want just priorities or strategic priorities?
Strategic priorities.
Well, then for each one, number 1 would be strategic priority, number 1, natural resources, I guess.
Right.
And maybe we should make clear above strategic priority number 1, if that's what we're going to call it, that these aren't necessarily in priority order. Unless they are.
Yeah. So maybe then let's not use priority. Either strategic imperative or pillar.
Yeah, pillar's fine.
Yeah. Great having pillars.
Yeah.
That,
Pillar to me sounds great for the first couple, the belonging and the natural resources. But when you get into staffing, that doesn't seem like it just didn't have the term like it'd be a pillar. Same with, or building the future would, but revenue and efficiency, that could be, I guess.
Would
Yeah, I
folks,
think you make a case that staffing is absolutely a pillar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a.
Might just need
I get
another
where
word for it for staffing. I don't know what that is, but
But I think it's okay. I mean, it's not to be taken quite literally.
Yeah.
But you know, some people might read it that way, but it's yeah, some people might just call that people, and it's still like a board priority or strategic priority or imperative or whatever. So I think it's okay.
yeah, for most,
We-
some of
we-
these some of these strategic priorities or pillars or goal areas are one word long and some are several words long. And I know that Stella was happier with natural resource protection, sustainability and resilience. But then you have belonging, staffing, building for the future. I don't, but
You know, an alternative would be we could go back to environment and then we could incorporate natural resource protection, sustainability and resilience in the paragraph right underneath it so that we're using all those terms prominently, but not as the title.
sure, that'd be fine. Just so we're somewhat congruent. The next, let's see, the next thought I had in belonging, what's currently called goal area 2. I just thought we ought to punch up first sentence. The end result of diversity, equity, inclusion of parks and programs to engage. I don't know if we I don't know, we can use diverse population or the varied population or something, but something to reflect the diverse citizenry of Northern Virginia. I guess that's using diverse twice, but.
Where are you again, Jeff?
Goal area, well, what we used to call goal area 2, belonging, first sentence. It's not a big deal, but just engage the citizens of Northern Virginia. I don't know if we need to say the diverse population or something like that. It's using diverse twice, but just a thought. On
but let's stay there for a second, because I think, do you want to say programs that engage increasing different, sorry,
yeah, increasingly varied,
cultures and communities?
sure, cultures or communities. Yeah, I don't know. Any of those are trigger words, but different communities or cultures are fine. Something.
Okay.
It is the growingly diverse area.
Right.
Under goal 2.1, we have build support effective community partnerships with ethnic groups like NAACP and Korean cultural community. We only have one objective, which involves something we're kind of already doing, the Korean Bell Garden.
Right.
I wonder should we have something else there about other groups
In fact,
as objectives?
that was one of my recommendations.
Yeah.
Starting
Okay,
with shortening the goal. So it just says build and support effective community partnerships with ethnic groups, period. Because NAACP is not an ethnic group. And there are more than just NAACP and the Korean Bell Garden.
That's a good thought. And then maybe have a couple broader objectives that bring specific groups to mind, or just keep them broad. I don't know what you had in mind, Kate. But.
I suggested adding objective 2.1.2, which would suggest partner with the NAACP to further create programming that serves their community. And we can broaden it out further as well.
Yeah, that was one of mine as also. And I would put that above the Korean Bell Garden because, as Jeff said, we're kind of already doing that one. Maybe put that one last in this section. And Kate, I think the one you have is fine. And maybe even whether it's the same one as yours or adding one before that, because I think one of the objectives should be to identify, different ethnic and diversity groups that could, we should start out by identifying new groups that we could potentially partner with, is maybe a first step.
And I think that's, yes, I agree.
Sounds good.
So Paul, is that clear?
Yes. We are moving the Korean one to 2.1.2. 2.1.1 is something to the effect of working with NAACP to further programs to serve that community. 2.1.3 is identifying new groups to partner with.
Hard to hear you, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I can hear you.
So backing up, 2.1.1 is paraphrasing, working with the NAACP to further programs to serve that community. 2.1.2 is the Korean Bell Garden. 2.1.3 is identify new groups to partner with. And we can flesh out those sentences, but
Sounds good.
Right.
Is that capture it?
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
If I'm jumping ahead of people, just let me know. Next on goal 2.5, under the first objective.
Mm.
I wondered if we wanted to specify, I don't, hire a community engagement manager to do what? Is that implicit in the goal, or do you want to say anything more about that?
And we did approve that during this fiscal year.
It's mid fiscal year, I think. So, or maybe it's beginning of fiscal year. Wait, that doesn't matter. That's details. Question is, what do they do?
Right. And if they're hired in January of, well, I don't know if they're hired yet, but whatever. Yeah, but I don't know if you want to specify what they do. That was the only thing that came to mind.
I think one of the central things they're going to be doing is focusing on our various friend and partner groups. So some of them are official friends groups, some of them are unofficial partners of various kinds, and building those ties and connections.
And that was in the minutes, I presume, when we approved it back in January, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an objective to be measured, then it seems like there ought to be, and we are interested in trying to measure these, going along with what Sean has been focusing on a little bit. Seems like we ought to have specific areas they're going to work on or something,
Right.
so we can at least
How
know
about
that they're there.
to enhance outreach to partner organizations?
But whatever you think is appropriate is fine with me, just so we are specific about it, a little more specific.
I would put the engagement, not just enhance outreach, but actually affect engagement.
Okay.
From them, because I think that was the intention of the discussion from the board to bring, because it's part of the overall branding initiative, as well as belonging too. So
Sure. Okay. In fact, affect engagement with partner organizations.
and Friends organization. Would you consider Friends a partner, or is that separate?
I was trying to use partner as a broader term, but I think our friends group would all certainly fit in there. But then there are so many other groups that aren't technical friends groups, but
I
are
would
strongly connected.
Yeah, I would call out the Friends because that's already an existing group of supporters.
It could be friends and partner groups.
Yep.
Okay.
My next comment was on let's see, objective 2.7.3.
Can I just
Absolutely, yeah, I'm just jumping around.
No, that's okay. Under 2.6, the goal is to provide regional leadership for the American 250th. And the first objective was repetitive of that. And I just wanted to call out that Brian brought that to our attention and it's been changed to initiate leadership plan meetings with history organizations to mark the 250th.
It's a good catch.
Moving next.
Should we change some of that then? Or I know
Paul and I already did. Paul, were you able to capture that, or do you want me to send it?
Yeah, it was, so 2.6.1 was something to the effect of initiate
Leadership planning meetings.
leadership planning with historic focused organizations.
Yeah. Instead of what it was provide regional leadership, which, as Brian pointed out, was redundant.
Right. Okay. Okay, good.
On Kate, anything more on
Nope.
2.7.3? That goal 2.7, inclusive, variety of inclusive strategies. First one is review park policies and practices, which is good. The second one's very specific about a Spanish translation of the website. The third, 2.7.3, promote the unique brand identity of Nova Parks. We've been having something about our brand identity in the last one or two strategic plans. I wonder if we should have something more specific about how that relates to inclusive strategies under that. And I don't know what that would be if we do, but I'm not.
Or do we? Yeah, I agree with you. Good catch.
So, unique brand identity of Nova Parks as a something organization.
So one option is we pull that one out of 2.7 area and we put it in maybe in revenue and efficiency under marketing.
That's where it belongs.
Yeah, so it'd be 5.2.2.
Yeah, I agree. The branding doesn't fit there.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Under 3.3.1, I know somebody mentioned something about the uniform committee.
Yeah.
Employees committee on, there's a committee on uniforms. It just seemed seemed, I don't know, really specific, or
it does not seem very strategic, but in our meetings with staff, it popped up quite a bit.
Okay.
There is a committee on uniforms. So we don't need to have this in there because it doesn't seem very strategic. One way or the other, we're going to empower that committee to make a recommendation and go forth with great uniforms.
Can I just add, I think it's important that the board hears what they're saying, and this comes up a lot from what I've heard. And in fact, I'd like to make it so that it's the best uniforms in the industry.
What are we trying to say with, is it part of the identity of the parks? Is it for comfort of this? I'm not sure what the goal of, it's great. I'd love to have the best uniforms. I just don't know is there a particular goal behind? Is it part of branding, or is it comfort, or I don't know.
I'm afraid I can't really tell you what the specific issue is with uniforms.
Okay.
But it's about retention. If they're not happy, like I said before,
yeah.
if employees not happy with the uniform.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who's, had to wear a uniform a lot, it's both in Catholic school and in the Army. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's elements of retention and there's elements of the brand identity. Speaking to the one we just moved to finance, right? But it can be important, and it'd be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, it can go from there's options to I mean, part of it might be there's a range of options that as long as it's the right branding that people get a little identity because that's
Yeah.
we're talking about a world where a lot of people get to work remote and obviously these types of folks wearing uniform or not. So, having something where they have maybe a little bit of freedom and still within the realm of a, standard and maintaining the identity is some sort of an option, right? But whatever that obviously, but I guess I agree with you, Jeff. It seems relatively tactical, but if it's important enough to put in there,
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, maybe it's develop esprit de corps, something that, not to use a military term, but to something that relates back to culture and staffing or something.
Yeah, esprit de corps is a great
For a
term.
purpose.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not definable. And if the staff has said this is important to them for retention purposes, I guess you could add it in, but that might not even be what it's about. We have to listen to them on this one, I think.
maybe morale, speaking morale to, employee morale or satisfaction.
Employee satisfaction would be great.
Okay. So it's improve employee satisfaction through enhanced uniform options.
Mhm. That they create,
Yeah.
empower them.
Okay. We still okay with that general area called staffing, or did you somebody mentioned people versus staffing? I don't feel strongly about it, but
People might be better.
But the staff may not know that they are the people.
they are the people.
They
Could
might
be
be
the visitors.
Category.
Our
Could
people.
be.
The team.
Yeah.
I mean, I like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
team
because
would be better than staff.
Yeah, I never use the word staff. I always
Yeah, you're good about that, Kate. I like the team thing. Maybe you have to call it the team, but yeah,
Yeah.
Our team or something like that.
our team be great.
Yep.
Yeah, our team's even better.
Okay, that's great.
The next question I had was on objective 4.22, engaging the Arlington community for the dual trails starting in 2024. It was just a timing question. Is that?
Jeff, you're muted.
I was here.
Sorry about that. 4.22.
Yeah.
Um,
You had a timing question with that one.
Yeah, I didn't know when when the grant money's coming in construction, I just didn't know how far ahead of all that you wanted to engage.
Right. So
Begin engaging.
we don't have a grant for construction. We have a grant for design. And we were able to accelerate the timing of that. It was, I think, 2026, and we have pushed it so that we'll get access to those funds soon. And so we can start with engaging a consultant, do the design. As soon as the design is done, then we can start engaging the public. And after we've gone through the public engagement process, then we go back to the Transportation Authority seeking funding for construction. So we will definitely be in the civic engagement in the pretty near future.
I was wondering if we should, not that we have to follow this exactly. Do we need to start in 23? I don't know. We're on calendar years here.
I mean, I think we start as soon as we can.
Okay.
The only reason I put 24 is I don't know how long it'll take our consultant to develop like the preliminary designs that we need to step out with the information to the public. So
Okay.
it will probably happen sooner than that, but that's a safe date.
Okay, just a question. I think my last comment is on what's called now Goal Area 5, revenue and efficiency. The paragraph that describes it says 88% of our funds come from operations. Success of all categories in the plan dependent on entrepreneurial ability to generate revenue. I was wondering, and operate efficiently and maximize use of resources. So it's just not revenue based, but it's operational efficiency and resource maximization.
Beautiful. I love that.
Pat, did you capture that last sentence?
And operate efficiently and
Maximize use of resources or something.
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
That's all I had. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for taking the time. This is great, Jeff.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome, Kate.
Really great. Sean, do you have anything else? Or
Yeah, I have a couple. I mean, first of all, thanks to Pat and Paul for going back, and I mean, this is much better organization and standardization throughout, so I appreciate it. Let's see, some I know it's going to be harder to measure, but for plan highlights, you know, I mean, it would be great if we could tout something about our outreach and diversity, especially staffing diversity in our highlights. I mean, I know we have less control over some of that, but I still think that it would be great to put pressure on ourselves to achieve by throwing in our cap over the fence there.
Sure. What would you think of serve our diverse communities in new ways? Is that too vague?
I mean, it's not a bad start. And, you know, and create a staff that's more reflective of our communities or something like that.
How about create staff and programs reflective of our communities? That might be a nice
that's
That'd be good.
encompass.
Yep.
I like that.
Better.
Or team, create a team and programs that is more reflective of our communities.
And
Yes.
and do a word search whenever the word staff is written. If
Yes.
change it to team member.
We have no staff, but we have lots of teams.
Yeah, team members and team. The team.
Got it.
And teams wear uniforms, so that way if anybody objects about we're talking about happiness, part of me is like, be careful what you say, because it's like, you know, whatever did I say, happiness or
Morale.
whatever we said, morale. It's like, yeah, well, morale for me might be not wearing uniforms. It's like, well, teams wear uniforms.
I do have one little question about, and I'm sorry, this is sidebar. If you'll indulge me, the cost for the team's uniforms, we bear that cost, I presume.
Yes. So our operational staff, which are the ones that are required to wear uniforms, have a annual uniform allowance. And then we have, you know, a selection that they can choose from. So they can, you know, decide within that universe of apparel what they'd like.
Okay, thank you for indulging me. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
This is a minor tactical thing to go off on that too, but it'd be cool if the uniform committee, I don't know if there's any opportunities. We do such a good job with grants and other things. If there's any partnerships with certain companies that, you know, where you'd work a deal, you know, REI, Patagonia, whatever branding.
Under Armour or
Under Armour's in Baltimore, whatever. Yeah. Anyway,
I think that's a great idea. And like
that's way in the weeds from those, but since we were on.
But I like that because it's like Lululemon. I mean, I think if you're in the industry, you want the best gear.
Yeah.
Right. It shows that you're top of the line, and you take pride in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then we can start selling our golf courses naming rights too. That'd be great. So the Dominion Resources would not be my vote. Occoquan Golf Course or whatever.
Oh, I texted
Algonquin.
Scott yesterday. Happy Monday, because we had a lot of people in Alexandria without power again after the storm.
Yeah, that's why I was kidding about those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something less controversial. Anyway, the whole thing was kidding.
We can certainly look into that though.
Yeah,
The apparel sponsor, so.
Yep.
Okay, so also,
I hate to do this, but again, can that be another one of the objectives? Let's just put it in there.
I mean, we could there, I have no notion whether we will get anywhere with that inquiry.
But it shows the staff that we intend to. And I mean, they're given the license to do so. Just a thought. Because if it's only our conversation here, I fear that that's where it stays.
Oh, it won't. I mean, we will pursue it if we say we're going to pursue it. That's the other objectives we can achieve. This one is
A stretch.
whether we can achieve it or not is completely unknown.
yeah. Well, I mean, it could be explored, but I think
Yes.
if we forward it to the committee, it may be a little bit too specific to include here, but I think it would be an interesting thing for them to do. Might be something they get excited about.
Sure.
So, you know, in sort of at the very top of page 2, in the vision, you know, if we want to add something about attracting and retaining top quality staff there, again, top quality team, I guess. But when I was reading through it, you know, again, adding something about a diverse staff there or diverse team might be good to make sure it's in the vision somewhere. We have cultural diversity of our region right above it, but I don't think we talk about it in terms of staff or team.
Okay.
A lot of the other comments I had were
Can I,
covered.
before we go there?
Yeah.
Brian did bring up a query about under Nova Parks Vision 2027, and here in red, where the implementation of the strategic plan will result in a stronger regional park system, a stronger Northern Virginia community, and an improved world. He thought we should remove that and just focus on our 6 jurisdictions, or meaning and an improved life, you know, quality of life for the citizens within our jurisdictions, I think is what he was trying to say. And this is
Our environmental efforts will be broader than that, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I
But
think
a world is a big bite. I don't know.
I think his point is valid. I mean, I think no one would argue that what we're doing here is going to improve the world, but I think that it might be wise to emphasize the priority of our 6 jurisdictions.
I mean, you could argue if you look at the policies and actions of our 6 jurisdictions, they are very much focused on improving the world. I think our plan is very consistent with a lot of our actions of our jurisdictions. And I think when you improve your community, you inherently improve the world to some degree.
a stronger Northern Virginia community. Well, maybe then with aspirations to improve the world, or with playing our small part in improving the world, or
Yeah.
playing.
I mean,
our
I don't
part.
think the wording is a problem so much as I think Brian's point was, yes, we're saying a strong Northern Virginia community, but do we want to specifically, either by changing the world part, I don't think anyone has an issue with saying we want to make a better world, but are we saying enough specifically about trying to benefit our 6-member jurisdictions? Like, again, not knocking it. I'm not saying anybody would look at this and say, you're not doing enough for the 6-member jurisdictions. I think Brian's point was, rather than emphasizing the world here or somewhere, do we want to more specifically mention, and pay homage to the 6-member jurisdictions somehow.
This might be because we're too close to it, because I think the team and Paul recognize that, quote, Northern Virginia was largely coined by this organization.
Right.
There was no Northern Virginia before Nova Parks.
True.
Right.
So
What if we substitute a sustainable environment as opposed to an improved world?
Sure.
We do say something about land management offsetting carbon a couple lines down, but would,
I mean, I think what we're doing with related to belonging is also improving the world. So it's environmental and social.
I think that's fine.
I mean, do you want to say sustained environment and social improved something along the lines of sustainable environment and social? I don't know if you want to throw social equity into there or not.
at meeting the needs of all of our communities. And that word can be used through several different lenses, but that might be too broad. I think it is. A stronger Northern Virginia community, a sustainable environment, and
Yeah, I don't know whether to get into social equity or not there, but
We also have stronger twice in a row. I don't know if that's on purpose. Stronger regional park system, stronger Northern Virginia community.
Paul, can you guys go back to the whiteboard on that one?
We can, yep.
no, we'll be done.
I'm hearing strongly that Paul feels that improve the world is a good mission.
That's fine. It's fine.
And I embrace that, and I think that's fabulous, because that's what, in fact, a lot of this plan does do. But perhaps there's several other clauses in here that we could add.
That's fine the way it is.
One of my other comments was kind of like Jeff's comment under, if we skip down to top of page 6.
Which goal is that?
Goal 3.4, objectives 1 and 2 under 3.4. Again, like Jeff had a comment again about, I forget which one specifically, but kind of like, with the hiring of the engagement. Okay, we're going to create a newsletter. We're going to reinstate the meeting, but again, like why? I mean, I guess inherently it's to try to achieve the goal above it for effective communication. But do we want to add more purpose behind why we're not just doing those for the sake of doing them?
Right. For effective internal communication.
Yeah, you can just figure something out. I think I'll go along with Sean, but we don't have to write it now, but just if you want to be more specific.
But this is really
right. So it's like opportunities for employee engagement, because hopefully they're going to be contributing to and writing it, and or cohesion or better. Part of it might be also to help communicate the strategic plan, right? That could be a mechanism to make sure that they're understanding it. One of the mechanisms for communicating this thing.
And for them to be able to respond back when they hit the targets. I do wonder, just what's the distinction between this and the monthly updates that we get from the park summary? Do they get that, and will we get a copy of what they are saying?
Yes, to all of that. We currently have the monthly newsletter. I usually share that with all staff too. One of the feedbacks from staff was they would like a newsletter. I think we take the monthly staff report and expand it and reformat that and make that a little more expansive than just what it is, but build on that foundation.
That's great.
But I think if we add the word engagement, so it is create effective tools and mechanisms for, we have effective twice, for internal engagement and communication, we might be there.
Good.
And we should strike one of those effectives.
Mhm.
We are
Yep.
doubly effective.
To be effective, strike and effective.
Really
And you could
effective.
just drop the first one, create tools and mechanisms for effective internal communications.
Yep.
3.42, reinstate the annual all-team meeting by 2023, I guess. Team. Word, as Kate said, word search. Yeah, so just for what purpose for those 3.41 and 3.42?
Mhm.
And then,
We
a lot
might-
of mileage were captured.
Sean, we might leave the all staff meeting because that's a term of art of that meeting. But
Yeah,
in
that's fine.
other places, replace it staff with team.
But why? I mean, if they're members of the team and suddenly they're called to an all staff, staff is pejorative in some senses. The team is not.
We can do that. It's just that the current team will understand the word all staff meeting, but I don't have no issue if we want to change that to all team meeting.
I mean, it's towards, and again, if, this is something we've emphasized mostly on this call, but I don't think anyone disagree, but it's like, if we're saying, hey, we're going to focus and start viewing you guys as team or family, then it's almost like a stark way to like announce it and make sure they know that we're really driving it home and they're seeing it by saying, it's now the all team meeting.
Bingo. I like that. Bingo.
And that 3.5.2, I made up based on Brian's comments.
Yes, Brian did suggest skill training at every level. And when I queried Paul on whether or not that's feasible and achievable, in some cases, he said, well, there are only in some places one person in a certain trait or a certain position. But he said that he thought he could meet this.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, because honestly, I think even like everybody's got a boss, and I mean, even if it's one person, it's like the boss saying to them, well, what do you think would be a good staff? What's a good development opportunity, working together, right? So everybody can come up with these.
Right.
Exactly. That's very easily done through our annual review process and setting of goals. And we just add that as a goal.
Yep. Okay.
Overall, it's greatly improved. I appreciate the hard work that went into it.
And Sean, I really appreciate your leadership in helping to direct this. Great effort. And Jeff, your insights as always.
Thank you.
So with that then, I don't know that we need a vote, but we certainly do need to establish for the record that we approve this updated version.
Did we address all of Brian's
Yeah.
comments? So he couldn't be here? We did? Okay.
Yeah, we did. That was, yeah.
So on one of Brian's comments, he asked about review by jurisdiction. So if and when this committee gives authorization to move forward, we can go with a version that is put out to the public with an online poll. And at the same time, we can send a version directly to every city and county manager with the plan asking for input.
So that's
That'd be
our
great.
process.
And Paul, I've not read it, but I mentioned that Fairfax County put out for comment their plan for a resilient county. Did you have a look at that? Did it mean
I did.
anything to us in any way?
It's an excellent plan. It is more focused on educating the citizenry of the county on things that the citizenry can do. So it's
Okay,
less internally focused, more externally focused.
got it. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I'd suggest that we probably have consensus then among the executive committee that this could move forward as Paul has suggested.
Wonderful, Sean.
Yeah, I agree.
Beautiful. That's really wonderful. A lot of time and work have gone into this. And I can't thank you all and the board for very constructive insights. Pat, thank you so much for getting us to this point and getting it right. And Paul, of course, for everything that you've done. and the team. I mean, the whole team has spent, how many, was it 4 different work sessions?
Yes.
Yeah,
Four work sessions with the team and lots of input and a lot of engagement. The good news is the team, I will not use the S word, were very engaged and very positive about this. And I think they are going to see their input reflected here and are going to really appreciate that.
but we appreciate them. So thank you for making this so really rich. It's been a very rich experience, I think, for everybody. And we know that all the fingerprints are on this and everybody's so in agreement that this is an excellent plan.
Good leadership, Madam Chair, and you'll indelibly be remembered among many things, but for one is the use of team.
That makes me happy.
Team,
I come from a big family that always doubled with lots of other orphans and others that we were all a team. So great. We will move this then out so that Paul can put it for public comment to our partners and specifically, as Brian suggested, to jurisdictions so that we can get their feedback and have the benefit of their insights by our July meeting. And if there's anything else, I don't think on the agenda we need to discuss, but I do want to wish everybody a very happy Memorial Day. And Jeff, wave. You know, this is a royal wave. When you're on that float.
All right, I want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be on the float there. I'll be waving at the Falls Church team as we're going along.
That's wonderful.
Jeff, thank you for representing.
Yeah,
Our
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. And Sean, I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend too.
Yeah, hope you get your electricity back on.
I've got mine. Luckily, it was a little iffy if we were going to be able to work on Monday morning, but we were all right.
wow.
Wonderful. Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Good
Ever.
Good seeing you.
Take care.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.